Hello, planet Earth. Thank you for joining me here live on Monday, March 18th. It's time to get back into action with making these videos. And today we're just going to do a Q brief. So I have some recent censorship to discuss with you guys. We're going to go over the latest Q drops and Q proofs. And then I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in foreign countries. We'll touch on New Zealand, but then I also want to talk about what's going on in Spain and in France. You know, we're not just trying to make America great again. We're trying to make Earth great again. Lots of stuff going on worldwide, not just in America here. But to begin, I want to start off, as you guys know, people who, you know, if you make things, if you're an artist, if you make handcrafted goods and you send me something, I have no problem giving you a shout out and linking your things down below these videos. And today's shout out comes from our friend Nick's Custom Designs. He makes handcrafted leather goods, and he sent me this wallet. You can see here, Q wallet, American flag. This is awesome little piece here, money clip on it too. He's made a few people these. I believe he's made Praying Medic one of these as well. And I threw my own little personal twist on it. Not only did I get the Q, I wanted the Q, but I also, little something out of this world. I wanted to put a flying saucer on that, a little spacecraft. So that's my own unique one he made. Shout out to Nick. Thank you, my friend. You can find his details down below if you want him to make and ship you one of these. So there you go. And if you want to get your own shout out, you know, if you make certain things and or an artist or whatever the case, and you want to figure out how to send me something, get your own shout out, contact me through my website, or you can DM me. Probably on Twitter is the best way to go about it. So there you guys go. And also recent censorship. You know, I think I mentioned a few videos ago that I was going to do like a censorship of the day bit, and I kind of said that tongue in cheek. I don't really want to do it, but if people get censored, well, we need to talk about it. So censorship of the day comes by way of Medium taking down Zach Haller's account, or the Shirtless Pundit, he also goes by. But first, Medium took down Martin Geddes. I reported on that a few videos ago. He had a very popular article on Q that had hundreds of thousands of views. Martin's did. They took down his account. And now Medium took down Zach's account right after he released an article on Q. He released a Medium article on Q, and it was actually discussing Washington Post's recent video they put out where they interviewed me and how much it failed, how much of a dud it was. That's what Zach was writing about. Medium decided to suspend his account. So that's unfortunate. You know, can't really trust Medium to share and spread transparent information. If you want to go follow Zach, his tweet will be in the description down below. All of today's notables, all of my contact info, and then the contact info for Nick will be all in the description down below. So there is the censorship news. Now let's get into discussing Q's drops. So we're going to go over all the ones we had from yesterday afternoon and evening, starting off with post 3097. Can you believe that? In almost a year and a half now, 3,100 drops. It's gone by like that, hasn't it? But Q's saying, what day is today? How much more obvious can we make it, in reference to a massive Q proof we got yesterday by way of a president retweet. President Donald Trump retweeting this right here. And this particular tweet in this account, you can see their profile photo is of a Q, and it has a red hat on it. This red hat actually doesn't say Make America Great Again. It says Bake America Great Again. 8chan inside jokes. But Donald Trump deciding to retweet this tweet out of all of them. Q saying retweet many for plausible deniability. March 17th message 2. And this is Trump's Twitter from yesterday. And he retweeted a lot of different tweets. This is what Q meant by retweet many for plausible deniability, because Trump retweeted some 10, 20, 30 different tweets. And then one of them that snuck in there, though, again, for plausible deniability, if he retweets a bunch of them, then that one seems a little benign. But the message is absolutely there for those who have eyes to see. The Anons, you and I. So that was not a mistake. And yesterday being the 17th, what's the 17th letter of the alphabet? I'm sure you already know that. That was a message to all of us following along. And right here, Anons, that's the message. We are with you, Q says. There you go. So that's our proof from yesterday. And I would rank that as one of the highest ones up there. We have the Air Force One proof. We've got Trump rally proofs where he's pointing at signs, pointing at shirts. But that's a massive one right there. President Trump actually retweeting an account that had a cover profile photo of a Q. And the Washington Post even taking to an article here saying, in Sunday tweet storm, Trump elevates a series of conspiracy theories and theorists. And they're literally writing about that account that Trump retweeted and how the avatar is a Q. So Washington Post and a lot of other mainstream media outlets trying to cover this as much as they can, basically discredit it, cover it up, I saw some mainstream media outlets literally in their headline for this reporting on Trump's retweet, mentioning Pizzagate, mentioning Q. So they're scared. They're most definitely scared, and it's fantastic to see. Now we have a little bit of news, some drops on New Zealand. Discuss that for a minute. So Q posted this graphic saying, what does a dog do when he or she has a bone? Did he have a therapist? Who paid for his travel to the Middle East? Those questions are in regards to the New Zealand shooter. What does a dog do when they have a bone? They dig. They dig to bury it. So when Q says that, what does a dog do when they have a bone? Basically, that's news to us to start digging, start looking for all these connections about the topic provided. Did he have a therapist? Seems like I think we can safely say all of these mass shooters, they have some sort of psychiatrist or some sort of therapist or handler that embeds them with the mind control programs. And who paid for his travel to the Middle East? So it was found out that the New Zealand shooter was traveling to Pakistan and traveling quite a bit over the last 5-6 years since he kind of went off grid. And how did he get there? Who paid for his travel? And not just that, but what did he do while he was there? Was he radicalized? Was he in some sort of programs that broke his consciousness? A lot of questions we have with this. And what's intriguing is this graphic started going pretty viral. I shared it on the 16th. I shared it a couple days ago, and it did go pretty viral. And these connections with this graphic are pretty disgusting. When I saw this, I wrote here, I was mind blown as to these connections, but I was also disgusted. So not only was John Podesta in New Zealand this week going on a, quote, speaking tour that was very hush-hushed. It was not publicized. And also probably meeting up with the elected officials over there. But the same symbols that were painted on John Podesta's hand in this photograph that was found in the WikiLeaks emails, the 14 and the fish, pretty infamous photograph right here. I'll zoom in a little bit so you guys can see it. 14 fish on his hands. Those same symbols were painted on the shooter's gun. 14, that fish symbol. Some people were noting that this particular symbol is a rune. It has pagan origins, Germanic origins, etc., etc. I'm going to do a video coming up on symbology. It's very important to understand. Of course, symbolism will be their downfall, so we better understand the ideas behind symbolism, why they do it, what they do it for. But you need to understand that a symbol can be used by a variety of people for a variety of different reasons and mean different things, basically. So, yeah, this particular fish rune, it might be benign, it might be innocent, being used by some people. But in terms of John Podesta here, I think we can tell that any symbols that guy uses probably has some ill intent behind it. It's almost like the swirl, that's the swirl that a lot of people equate to being a pedo symbol. That's been used in ancient times by many different cultures for many innocent reasons. But when it comes to a symbol, it's all about the intent with which it's used by, the sentiment that it proceeds from. Okay, so to some people, using a swirl won't mean anything bad. To other people, using a swirl most definitely means bad. John Podesta, 14 fish on the gun. My thoughts is that maybe John Podesta is some sort of activator. He was in New Zealand for this, quote, speaking tour and was there, say, giving orders or, making an operation go live. Anyway, a lot of digging you can do. I've seen all sorts of inconsistencies with that video. Of course, in New Zealand, we can just get onto that topic now. New Zealand, they are cracking down on 8chan, on 4chan, on different information distribution platforms. Basically, New Zealand mobile carriers blocking 8chan, 4chan, live leak. This was just a couple of days ago. I'm also seeing 8chan being blocked in the UK, seeing some reports of that. So no doubt this was some operation. Who knows about the video of this New Zealand shooting? Maybe there was some faked video. Maybe there's some real video. It's just lots of questions, lots of inconsistencies, but nevertheless, we see exactly why this operation was done. It was done with the intent to wipe 8chan off the map and completely vilify it. So 8chan is getting wiped off the map in New Zealand, in the UK. There's all sorts of mainstream media articles being run here in America about 8chan, trying to vilify it, trying to paint it in a negative light. When, if you aren't familiar with 8chan, of course, 90% of my viewers are, but I could have some new people watching here. If you aren't familiar with 8chan, it is very open. It's just an online, anonymous image posting board where you can go post basically whatever you want. And the people that run 8chan, the moderators there, they absolutely do scour it for illegal content. There's a lot of claims about child porn being found on 8chan. Well, anything illegal gets taken off. And not just that, but you also need to understand the idea of agent provocateurs. We're going to be talking about that in regards to the uprisings in France and Spain here soon. Agent provocateurs. So basically, shills, assets that go into 8chan and they purposefully post illegal stuff so then the mainstream media can say, oh, look at this nasty stuff on 8chan, and then paint it negatively. You see? And really quick here, again, we'll talk this more in a sec, but say protests going on in France, yellow vest protests, agent provocateurs, assets go in and they cause violence, they do illegal things, harmful things, just so they can run in the media that, oh, look at these yellow vest protests, they're violent and everybody associated with it is crazy, you see? So these are the sort of psyops we're dealing with here. We'll get to the foreign uprisings a little more shortly. So I think I covered a lot of that in regards to New Zealand and the shooting and then those connections there. Same symbologies being used within these particular societies, groups, this faction of the cabal, we could call it. Q then linking a Twitter thread from Burn Notice, calling himself Burn Notice, and I love that. Burn Notice used to be one of my favorite shows like 10 years ago. I love spy thrillers, man. I love spy thrillers, so I loved Burn Notice. But anyway, this Twitter account that calls himself Burn Notice goes on a thread talking about Podesta touring Australia and New Zealand and a lot of these just weird questions we have. So this is a really good thread that Q pointed out here. Good stuff. Q linking a YouTube video saying, "We must fight. We must fight," from President Reagan. Speech from him there. And also noting that in that retweet that Donald Trump did yesterday with the account that had the profile photo of Q, it did say, "We have to fight back." That was the very first line. Q reiterating that line to us here, quote, "We have to fight back." Essentially kind of rallying the troops here, a call to arms. Big things are imminent, guys. Imminent. I mean, we could be talking days here. Days, if not a week or two. So get ready. Get ready. Keep fighting. Linking a tweet here from Donald Trump, Q does. And in this tweet from yesterday, Trump said, "Keep fighting in it. Keep fighting for Tucker. Fight hard for all these folks on Fox News that are taking the heat right now." Fox News doing very weird things. I just saw this morning that they're hiring Donna Brazile, former DNC chair Donna Brazile, to be a contributor there. So Fox News, really weird things going on there, whether this is purposeful, whether it's kind of a controlled implosion. But nevertheless, Fox News becoming less and less credible in people's eyes, which is, I mean, a bad thing because we do see a little more truth come from Fox News than other outlets like CNN or NBC. But in that same vein, it's only a couple people on Fox News. There's a lot of, dimwits on Fox News that we see, but people like Tucker and Hannity, It's like there's just a couple people on Fox News that seem like patriots and that seem very good-hearted. So I could see a controlled implosion of Fox News being done, so that way the mainstream, we get the majority of the masses start turning to the citizen journalists, the people who can openly and much more easily speak about the hardcore stuff, right? So I could see a controlled implosion of all mainstream media occurring just to funnel people towards citizen journalists out there. But moving on, post 3105, Q linking this graphic, a post of theirs from over a year ago, February of 2018. And this particular graphic telling us the difference between a patriot and a traitor. Patriot is a person who loves, supports, defend his country, their values, and its interests with devotion, individual rights, and against presumed interference by the government. And a traitor is, of course, a person who betrays trust, cause, any other individual. So Q noting that, and then Q giving us this graphic here of a tree. Half of it's dead, half of it's on fire. Kind of a sort of yin-yang, law of polarity that we've got going on here. But this graphic was actually taken, it's a screenshot of this. So this is the full graphic here. And some Anons out there reverse image searched this, and that's how we found this particular graphic that it comes from. So showing us yet again that yin-yang, the light and dark here. Which side are you going to choose? That's basically it. One path you can take will lead to service to self, evil, that sort of thing. And then the other path can lead us to the light, the truth, the transparency, service to others. What are you going to choose? That's all it is. That's the name of the mystery here. It's all a choice that we're in this particular incarnation, this particular density 4 is the choice. Q then giving us another photograph, this here, of the American flag in the sunset, and then Q saying, at Jack, who has the real control? Can you remove the top comments? And this is in reference to another tweet of Trump's, Make America Great Again. This was posted last night at about 7 p.m. But you can see here all of, or, well, looks like the algorithms kicked in. But at first, this particular tweet, let's just go to Q's screenshot. You can see the top comment there is a Q-related comment. And at the very beginning, last night, when this tweet was made, all of the top comments were from patriots, supportive content of Trump, Q-related content. It was like that for hours and hours. And the top comments on Trump's tweet here were getting thousands of likes, thousands of retweets. So basically, it was shown that the algorithms on Twitter were broken or they're losing control of them. And of course now it looks a little different on Trump's tweet here. Looks like the algorithms kicked in and moved a lot of those comments a little lower. Now a lot of the hateful ones are up there. But once these social media companies lose control of their algorithms, it's always a good sight to see. And then Jack Dorsey showed his hand. So Q sending another message to Jack. Thanks for playing. Showing your hand was the intended target. The strike will be fast. Shall we play a game? And that was this right here. So 2 minutes before Q made that post saying Jack showed his hand, the strike will be fast, Twitter Jack posted this tweet 10:57 p.m., 2 minutes before Q's post at 10:59, of the Japanese flag with a check-in from Japan. Hokkaido, Japan. Hokkaido. So Jack essentially showing his hand as the intended target to Q. And there you go. Some private communications going on there. Messages between each other. So we covered Q. I covered pretty much all I wanted to there. So now let's get into a little bit of the foreign uprising. So some things going on in Spain and in France. We'll start with Spain. We already talked about New Zealand, so now we're going to Europe. Huge pro-Catalan rally staged in Madrid. This was 2 days ago. Hundreds of thousands of people. Of course, the mainstream media, Spanish police putting it at just 18,000, we all know when there's a giant demonstration, the mainstream media is going to paint it as being much smaller than it actually is. Protest organizers said 120,000 people marched in Madrid for basically Spanish nationalism, their own independence against globalism. They're marching here for Catalonia independence. Okay, so huge things going on in Spain. And this is important because just next month, in about a month here, there's going to be elections in Spain. So this is why we have such massive demonstrations going on right now. And this is also why the mainstream media is doing all they can to combat, of course, what they're calling fake news ahead of key elections. And of course, fake news in mainstream media terminology usually means real news. So Spain is doing all they can to censor the internet and combat real news to keep their globalist president puppet, what's his name? Sanchez, I believe. His name's slipping my brain right now. But basically, the president in Spain is a globalist puppet, and they're doing all they can to keep him in power. So the deputy prime minister of Spain announced last Friday that it has readied protocols to shield the general election from cyber attacks, like we've been saying, aka combat truthful info, deep state exposing info on the internet. To that effect, the Interior Ministry, this article says, announced a team of 100 officers who will scour social networks and the so-called deep web from early April. So a few weeks before their Spanish elections, they're having a whole team of 100 people scouring social media, of course, to censor, to remove content that is damaging to their agendas over there in Spain. So we got Spanish uprisings going on and also in France as well. So protests going on in Paris, rioting, some violence going on, and these are yellow vest protests. So the majority of these people in these French protests have the yellow vests on, right? But you also need to understand is that when it comes to these protests, just like I was mentioning earlier in this video, the agent provocateurs, so the individuals that go in, they might wear a yellow vest, but they're not really for it. They're not with the protest. They're going in because they're tasked to cause violence just so they can paint all the yellow vest protesters as being violent. I think that's exactly what's going on here. So in these photographs by the Associated Press, you can go through these. I believe it was number 14 here. I'm just skipping along. Don't mean to go that fast. But you can see some of these protesters, they're black clad. They're like black bloc protesters, basically looking like Europe's version of Antifa, right? A few of them have yellow vests on, but what these agent provocateurs will do is they'll blend in with the crowd. You know, they'll make it seem like they're legit protesters there, but they're really not. So I would not doubt if these are agent provocateurs, if some of them are. And look at this. Paris police chief was sacked. The French government will replace the Paris police chief and ban rallies in some areas after Saturday's violent protests. Whoa, clockwork. Who would have thunk? They get violent, then they can say, oh, we're going to ban rallies and switch the police chief and do all this stuff. So classic problem reaction solution here. They create the problem themselves with their agent provocateurs and doing so for a particular reaction for the public, so the public gets to accept the ban on rallies here. Problem reaction solution. Clockwork right here. So lots of stuff going on in Europe, trying to make Europe great again. Uprisings going on worldwide, guys. This great awakening, it's amazing to tracking it as best I can here in America, but it's also going on in Australia and New Zealand. That's why that false flag took place, and they're doing all they can to censor the internet there. They're trying to censor the internet in Spain. There's uprisings of hundreds of thousands of people in Spain, in France. Everywhere these uprisings are happening, the deep state is doing all they can to discredit it through the use of paid agents, provocateurs, complicit mainstream media, through the use of anything they can. False flag operations, you know. So it's incredible. It's getting hot. It's definitely getting hot. You know, we are, like I mentioned earlier, days, weeks away from big things going to take place. So this is really the last gasp of the deep state. We're noticing that through censorship. We're noticing that through the attacks on the uprisings, and we're also noticing that through the shill hordes, coordinated shill hordes on the internet that are doing all they can on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook to discredit, defame, and spread fake news. So that's it, guys. That's all for this one. Exciting stuff, but I'm back to business, back to making these videos. I'll be checking in on a daily basis from here on out. So thank you all for your support. Appreciate you for tuning in. I'll be talking to you soon. Done.